Hi, everyone. I was thinking that right now might be a good time to get started. I'd like to introduce Shayla Myers, who's a Housing Communities Work Group staff attorney at LAFLA. She often supervises the attorneys and law student volunteers at the clinic, and I consider her an expert in all the things that we're going to go over today, whether it be eviction defense or housing or public benefits. I learn something new every time I have the honor of working with her, so I'm really excited that she's here to lead our training. If you could just give her a round of applause, and thank you for coming. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. Ashley is a tremendous volunteer for the LA CAN Clinic. We're very lucky to have her. We're very lucky to have all of the volunteers that come in every Wednesday night to make the clinic possible in Skid Row. So today I'm going to go over the legal clinic at LA CAN. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Community Action Network, the Skid Row community where the Legal Aid Clinic takes place every Wednesday night. And then I'm going to go over some of the common legal issues that we see at the clinic, some legal advocacy tips in working at the clinic, and then some of the clinic logistics. So a little bit about me. As Ashley said, my name is Shayla Myers. I'm an attorney in the Housing and Communities Work Group at LAFLA. So the Housing and Communities Work Group is really focused on housing and homelessness issues with a broad understanding about working within communities here in Los Angeles. So when the Housing and Communities Work Group works in a community, we tend to look holistically at that community. So most of the work that I do is not actually direct services. I'm actually a litigator. Most of my time is spent in federal court or state court. As of late, most of my time is spent litigating against the city of Los Angeles on its policies related to homelessness. And I tell you that because I love that Ashley said I am an expert on all things eviction defense, all things public benefits. I am not. To the extent that I am an expert on anything, it's meeting and conferring with the city attorney's office. But that is the beauty of the LA CAN Clinic, and it's actually one of the ways in which I have a lot in common with you all coming into the clinic and with all the other volunteers who come in, is that we're not experts in the types of substantive law that we sometimes see with our clients who come in. That doesn't matter. The clinic has been run for 17 years, for 12 years, built by people who are not experts in the field, but who are doing the work to ensure that folks who are coming in are getting some access to resources that they wouldn't have otherwise. So I say that to put your mind at ease. Also, I am very much a type A personality. I am very much a litigator in my day job. I have to put a lot of that aside when I work at the LA CAN Clinic, and we'll talk about what that is. But all of that to say, if you are a litigator, if you do transactional work, but you do it here, ask questions to make yourself feel comfortable and know that that is the benefit of the clinic, right? Is that it brings in folks who wouldn't otherwise be doing that work day to day to bring some resources to the community. So, the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. We are the frontlines law firm for low-income people in Los Angeles. We've been around for 86 years here in the city of Los Angeles. We started as a legal clinic with USC. We've bridged out, but every day for 85 years, we've been providing legal services to folks in Los Angeles. And we call ourselves a frontlines law firm for low-income folks in Los Angeles. Because our work is primarily dedicated to providing direct legal services to people where they are to ensure their survival in the city of Los Angeles. So to that end, we provide a wide range of substantive legal services for low-income folks. Our economic stability work group focuses on public benefits, re-entry work, so we do a lot of clean slate expungement work, and employment rights work. Our Supporting Families work group works with domestic violence survivors and does family law, as well as immigration services. Our Veterans Justice Clinic provides general legal services to veterans in Los Angeles, the majority of whom who seek our services are homeless. So a lot of the legal services that we provide are about providing government assistance getting veterans benefits and also moving folks off the streets. Housing Communities Work Group, like I said, we focus on affirmative housing litigation, public policy, and work related to homelessness, with a focus on criminalization of homelessness. And then our Eviction Defense Center is exactly what you would expect. We provide eviction defense services for low-income folks in Los Angeles who are being evicted. We have the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is very much a place-based organization here in Los Angeles. So we are out in the communities that we serve. Although I litigate in downtown LA, my office is in South Los Angeles. A lot of the folks who are seeking our services related to housing and related to displacement are in South Los Angeles, and our office is there. Our main office is on 8th and Union in the Pico Union neighborhood. We've been there for years. We just got a brand new, very, very pretty new building. So if you ever have a chance to go see it, you should. It used to be a terrible building on the same site. We have an East Los Angeles office right off of Whittier Boulevard, and then we have a Santa Monica office. And I cannot believe I did that. We also have a Long Beach office, and if people in our Long Beach office knew that that was not on there, I would be in so much trouble. But we also have a Long Beach office. We have domestic violence clinics actually at courthouses to help people get restraining orders. And then we have 4 house self-help centers at courthouses throughout the city. And then we have community legal clinics throughout Los Angeles. It is very difficult for low-income folks to get legal services. It's even more difficult for low-income folks to get legal services in the limited places where we can provide them. So one of the things that LAFLA does, and one of the things that we do, obviously, in our Skid Row clinic, is that we meet people where they are. Right? We go out and we have traveling clinics throughout the city in places like we have a stand down every year, a veteran stand down in Compton, where people can get legal services there. We have legal clinics at various workers' rights centers, and then we have the LA Can Clinic. Anybody have any questions about LAFLA? So the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, in our Skid Row clinic, pairs up with a community organization called the Los Angeles Community Action Network. LA Can has been a staple in the Skid Row community since 1999. They were founded as an organization to give a voice to people who were homeless and housed in the Skid Row area at a time when Skid Row was facing gentrification. That fight has continued, and LA Can has continued as a community resource. So they have a civil rights committee that meets of residents who come together to talk about civil rights issues facing the community. They too got a brand new building. They built it over years, but where the legal clinic is, it's at their brand new building, and on the roof they have an amazing community garden. It's part of their commitment to ensuring that people in Skid Row and people in South Los Angeles have access to fresh food. They have a downtown women's committee that advocates for women who are homeless or housed in Skid Row. They do voter engagement, ensuring that people who are unhoused in Skid Row have the opportunity to vote, which is a significant issue for people who may otherwise not have addresses. They engage in community watch. They go out in the community and watch the police who are watching residents of Skid Row. They house the legal clinic. And our clinic is very much a partnership with the LA Can, And then they engage in coalition building. So they are the organizing group for the Southern California Homeless Bill of Rights Coalition, which does a lot of work on the criminalization of homelessness, and the Human Right to Housing Collective, which really advocates for the rights of public housing tenants, particularly, people who are living in public housing in Los Angeles. So the partnership between LA Can and the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is at the core of this clinic. That the partnership has been going on since LA Can started and since this clinic started. Out of this clinic, sort of the clinic is one of the most important things that we do with LA Can, but it's not the only thing that we do. They are frequently involved in our impact litigation, so they're often my client. When we sue the city of Los Angeles, it's oftentimes with LA Can as a client because they can speak on behalf of their members who are homeless. We also work with them to provide organizational support for California Public Records Act requests or Brown Act. And then we have the community legal clinics. So that started in 2004, and it expanded in 2007, and we've been going ever since. So that clinic is part of a long-term commitment to be in Skid Row every Wednesday night at the LA Can Clinic. How many of you know where Skid Row is? Where is it? Somebody. Where is it in relation to where we are standing right here? Do you know? I mean, you tell me directionally. It's east of here, right? Yeah. And what do you know about Skid Row? Lots of tents. How many of you have been to Skid Row? So Skid Row takes up 50 square blocks in downtown Los Angeles. The boundaries are to the north, 3rd, to the south, 7th Street, to the east, Alameda, and to the west, Main. Those boundaries have been enshrined by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, who wrote what it was in a case Jones versus City of Los Angeles. But those boundaries are also shifting a little bit as gentrification happens, right? As businesses move and the real estate on the boundaries of Skid Row become more and more important for downtown real estate, the boundaries of Skid Row get smaller and smaller. But that's roughly where Skid Row is. Skid Row in Los Angeles is it has one of the largest unhoused populations in the city of Los Angeles, which means it has one of the largest unhoused populations in the state of California and in the United States. Every night on the streets of Skid Row, there are between 6,000 and 8,000 people who are homeless, depending on the numbers and how they get counted. Skid Row did not happen by accident, and I think that's what we all have to realize, that Skid Row was a neighborhood that developed in the 1800s as the railroad was coming to Los Angeles, as people were needing to work on the railroad. People were needing to work in Los Angeles. Within the Skid Row area, there was a significant development of SROs. Single room occupancy hotels, right? That were single rooms, shared around bathrooms where low income, particularly men, could come and stay while they were working. So downtown Los Angeles and the Skid Row area has a significant stock of affordable housing. In addition to a place where there was a significant stock of affordable housing. It was also a place where, as the homeless population in Los Angeles started to develop, it was also a place where very purposefully housing services and homelessness services, soup kitchens, right, homeless healthcare services developed. Along a theory of containment, so that people who were homeless had a place where they could go to get those services and a place where they could stay. We know in Los Angeles that the homeless population has expanded exponentially. Every year we see the homeless count that comes out. We know that it's increasing 12%, 23%. The number of people who are homeless on the streets of LA is going up. But the homeless population in Skid Row has been there for a very, very long time. And what most people don't realize about Skid Row, though, is that there's also a significant housed population. Skid Row not only has the largest concentration of homeless people, it also has one of the largest concentrations of affordable housing left in Los Angeles, and that's SROs. That is the single residency occupancy hotels where individuals can stay. It's also a place where there has been significant investment in redoing those SROs into permanent supportive housing. So many of the people who live in Skid Row are not just unhoused, they're also housed, but have mental health issues, have substance abuse issues, were formerly unhoused in the Skid Row area and have been lucky enough to get permanent supportive housing. And most of the people who live in the SROs around Skid Row and in the neighborhood that's served by this clinic get some sort of housing subsidy to help them afford to stay in the single residency occupancy hotels. So that's the population who is coming to seek services. It's both folks who are unhoused and have legal issues, but it's also folks who are housed in the area who have housing issues, who have public benefits issues. So when folks talk about Skid Row, I think we absolutely think of the tents, but I think we often don't think of the folks who are holding on to their housing because they have affordable housing in the Skid Row area. In addition to being one of the largest areas for an unhoused population and one of the largest concentrations of affordable housing in the city. It's also one of the places that has the largest number of police officers. Since 2007, the Skid Row area has been the recipient of significant resources from the Los Angeles Police Department. Since 2007 until roughly 2016, the Los Angeles Police Department sent a significant number of law enforcement officers under a program called the Safer Cities Initiative. That meant that officers were sent particularly to the Skid Row area to police, and as a result of that, people got lots and lots of tickets. People got citations for sitting, sleeping, or lying on the sidewalk, which is a crime in the city of Los Angeles. And between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., it is absolutely enforced by the Los Angeles Police Department. And to the tune of 25,000 tickets between 2010 and 2017. So the city of Los Angeles gives people tickets for sitting, sleeping, lying on the sidewalk. People get tickets for having shopping carts, which is illegal under the state code. They get tickets for jaywalking, and there's a significant concentration of law enforcement. So that is the population that are coming in to seek services at the Skid Row Clinic. Does anybody have any questions about Skid Row, about the folks who are coming in and getting services? Okay. So I have this slide, but I'm always hesitant to use this slide because anybody who has been to the Skid Row Clinic can tell you that the idea of a common legal issue is a little bit laughable. So it is difficult to seek legal services if you're a low-income person in the city of Los Angeles. It is hard to get through barriers like Laughless Phone Tree, right? I care a lot about my organization. I think we do a phenomenal job, but I also know that there is one legal services attorney for every 10,000 low-income people in the city of Los Angeles, which means that it is very difficult to get through the bureaucracy to get a lawyer. The LA CAN Clinic is set up and specifically designed to cut through some of that bureaucracy. It is a very, very, very low bar to entry to get services. So the LA CAN Clinic runs every Wednesday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and a person who comes in can sign up and meet with a lawyer. That means that whether or not a person has a legal issue that fits neatly within LAFLA's special work groups, right, within our service area, isn't particularly well defined for the person who is seeking services, right? It's very easy for me to know when a person walks in, whether their issue is benefits, whether their issue is family law, whether they have a tort claim against a doctor. But people who are coming into the legal clinic don't define their legal issues in quite the same ways that we do. So I say there are common legal issues, but people come in with every sort of legal issue, running from, medical malpractice, for which we refer people. We tell them statutes of limitations and we refer people, obviously, to particular housing issues. It is one of the best, most interesting and most complicated aspects of the LA CAN Clinic is that we do provide legal services in a wide variety of areas. We are a generalist practice, and people come in with a whole host of issues. So these are the issues that we generally see from folks who are coming in to get services at the LA CAN Clinic. Like I said, Skid Row has a significant number of supportive housing services, and a lot of the people who have housing in Skid Row also get a benefit attached to their housing that helps pay the rent. So people come in with a whole host of issues related to those benefits. They come in with basic landlord-tenant issues, right? Security deposit issues, illegal lockout issues, roommate issues, rent issues, the standard landlord-tenant issues that if you're a renter in LA, you have probably had. And the folks who are coming in who are housed are no different. They come in with habitability issues, right? There's molds or they have roaches or bed bugs, those kinds of issues. They come in with eviction notices. Either they've gotten a 60-day notice to quit, they've gotten a notice that their landlord wants them to leave, or they've been served with an unlawful detainer, right? They're already in the legal process, so they come in with that. They come in needing help because they live on the 3rd floor and they have a mobility issue. They can't walk, and their elevator's been broken for 6 months, and they're having a hard time, so they need help with that. And then they come in with issues related to the Los Angeles Rent Stabilization Ordinance. Other folks come in with public benefits issues. So in the city of Los Angeles and in the state of California and the county of Los Angeles, we have a whole myriad benefits that are available to people. People come in with questions related to general relief, related to food stamps, related to Social Security, related to VA pensions. And people come in. Oh, I cannot. Is there a question in Century City? They're like, what? Century City? Good to see you. Hi in Century City. Okay. And then people come in with really straightforward contract issues, torts issues that can be dealt with through small claims. Like I said, people come in with a whole host of questions, legal questions. Part of the benefit of this clinic is that it's an opportunity for someone to sit down with a lawyer or a law student and talk through the legal issues that they're having. Sometimes it feels a little like a law school exam. It's like hearkening back to, I rarely do anything related to contract law except leases occasionally. So it's sort of hearkening back to what I understand about an offer and acceptance from contract law. But a lot of the things that when a person is coming in, they're asking for sort of that baseline, those baseline questions that they have about the legal issues that are facing them. So any questions about the types of issues that we see? You're like, you just gave me a list. No, so the Legal Aid Foundation does do some criminal work related to citation defense, right? So if somebody gets a ticket for 4118D, and expungements are criminal as well. Other than that, and rarely will we take those kinds of cases through the LA CAN clinic. Okay, other questions? Yep. Not through the clinic. Oftentimes, some of our larger LAFLA does, but coming in through the clinic, most of the issues are reasonable accommodations. Okay, so I've just told you we have 27,000 different legal issues that come in, and I think when folks walk into the clinic, the question is what can I do for someone who walks in and has a question about a complex federal benefit related to housing that I have never heard of, let alone know the rules related to. This is often something that I struggle with as well, right? Because I am not an eviction defense attorney, right? I am not a public benefits attorney. But the folks who are coming in to seek legal services, there is a whole host of things that we all collectively can provide for folks. First of all, we can provide legal education. So the knowledge that you have as lawyers is significantly greater than the general population when it comes to understanding what a civil lawsuit is versus what the criminal courts are. So sometimes people are coming in and they know that they've been wronged, but they don't know what that means, right? They don't know what a tort is, or they don't know, who knows what a tort is, but they don't know what the legal system is and how it breaks down. A lot of what we do at the legal clinic in Skid Row is to provide general legal education. We also provide counsel and advice. That is a significant portion of what we do. And what counsel and advice often is it's a common sense approach to problem solving that's through the lens of being a lawyer, right? So if somebody comes in and their landlord won't give them their security deposit back, that is a really common issue. And there is a statutory scheme related to the provision of a security deposit back to a renter, right? There are requirements. Well, we have those requirements at the legal clinic, right? We have very big binders that have all of the general rules related to security deposits, eviction defense, those kinds of things. And a lot of what the role of an attorney at this clinic is to take the knowledge, the facts that a person has, right, about their landlord-tenant dispute and apply the the sort of common sense lens of what the statutory framework is, and you look it up, right? But the reality is that the law is obtuse, right? It is very difficult for people to know where to get resources. And you all, as very, very talented lawyers who are used to spending your day thinking about the law, can take that common sense approach and filter it through the legal framework that you understand in a totally different way than the rest of the non-lawyer population, and provide counsel and advice. We sometimes do pro per assistance, right? So somebody comes in, they have a landlord-tenant dispute related to their security deposit. Well, the first step in that is absolutely a demand letter. And it's very easy for us as lawyers to sit down and help somebody write a pro per letter to a landlord demanding the return of a security deposit. We give referrals. We will sometimes refer to LAFLA internally because we can sometimes take cases for folks who come into the clinic. Sometimes folks will take cases that come through the clinic for pro bono representation. Most of the work that you do at the LA Can Clinic, and this is what I think makes it particularly appealing for a lot of folks, is that it is one day, right? Come in, you were there for 3 hours and you were done. It is both there's a low bar to entry for clients. There's also a low bar to entry for volunteers who want to participate. But sometimes out of that, folks can take on longer term pro bono representation. That definitely happens. And for some folks, that's a really rewarding way to participate. But it's not an expectation. Yeah. That's great. So, just a little bit more about counsel and advice. The goal of it is to really take the complex world of the law and distill it down into information that is accessible and comprehensible to someone who might not have otherwise ever had access to the legal system, or they've had access to the legal system in a way that nobody cared at all whether they understood it, right? Which is often what happens if somebody's got access to the legal system only through the criminal justice system, right? Or only because they were evicted. The goal of it is to make the legal system more accessible for people who are coming in and getting services. What makes counsel and advice different than legal education is that it is tailored specifically to the facts that a person comes in with. So it's the difference between you have 5 days to answer an unlawful detainer. An unlawful detainer lawsuit is filed against you. That is legal education. Specific advice is an unlawful detainer was filed against you, and based on this, you now have 5 days to go into the courthouse and file an answer, right? Both of those are helpful. The second one is more helpful, obviously, to a person because it's tailored to them. And I will tell you that limited amount of information is extremely helpful to someone because that limited amount of information they may not ever have known, and it is the difference between them staying housed or becoming homeless. And then we say step-by-step instructions and written advice is extremely helpful, and we'll go over the paperwork, but we've created the paperwork in a way that makes it possible and easy for you to give written advice to clients. Pro per assistance is exactly what it sounds like. It's providing legal assistance and written documents just without putting your name on it. So we never put the names of, we never put the name of LAFLA on anything, and you certainly don't put the name of Latham & Watkins on anything that comes out of the clinic. Everything that we do there is done pro per. If it's going to be for LAFLA as their attorneys, then we'll do it during the day from one of our offices. Pro per assistance can run the gamut from simply helping out with a demand letter that's very straightforward. That is, you have not returned my security deposit. Somebody walked in to one of our clinics and was going through the DLSE and was going through the wage and hour, was challenging a wage and hour violation and needed help filling out a subpoena, right? A lot of the work, there are pro per systems that are designed for people to be able to access the courts, but sometimes people need additional assistance. So this is one way to be able to do that. And a lot of it is reading the instructions on the form with the level of comprehension that you have as lawyers. Because even though often things are written for people to be able to do themselves, they're really complicated. So a lot of it is you have the instructions in front of you, and it's just helping someone navigate those systems. Fee waivers, basic documents, filling out court papers. If somebody already has a case, we don't start cases, so we don't help people write complaints for a variety of reasons in the clinic. But if somebody needs help with the fee waiver, right? If somebody has been served an unlawful detainer, they've already been dragged into court, we help with that. So this is just basics on demand letters. This is the CLE portion of your training. Like I said, we don't use LA Can, we don't use LAFL, you definitely don't use Latham. Be concise about the facts and the demand that you do, right? What are the very specific facts? And what are the facts that best you can verify them? And what is the demand, right? What are you asking for? We always put a deadline for written response to a demand letter. We don't disclose too much information about disability. So if somebody has a disability, they're not required to disclose what it is. It's enough to say that they have a disability that is impairing them. We include the relevant law, just enough to know that it is, that likely there was a lawyer in the background helping a person write it. That is a helpful thing for a landlord on the other side to know, or for someone to know. But we don't use legalese because the person's going to have to navigate the giving the demand letter and responding to it themselves. And then this is the thing about this clinic too, is that there's always supervising attorneys. There's always 2 attorneys at the clinic who do this as their day jobs, right? So we review everything that goes out. So in terms of what it is like to come into the legal clinic and work with folks, a person who comes into the legal clinic, one of the best parts about this legal clinic is that it is available every Wednesday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., right? Every Wednesday night, with the exception of the day before Thanksgiving. I think that is the one Wednesday night that we don't do it, or if it falls on Christmas. But other than that, this clinic has been running every Wednesday night in Skid Row since 2004. People know that they can come and get services. And people know that they can come get services on that night if, at that point, getting legal services is what rises to the top for them as the most important thing in their lives, right? So a person who is coming in has a whole bunch of legal issues that they are facing. They have a whole bunch of issues in their lives, and they've come in for a very specific reason, but oftentimes they're talking about a whole bunch of different issues that are affecting them. It's really important to just set boundaries around what you're going to do for that person, right? So that they don't think that they're getting a lawyer who's going to represent them in court, right? So that they understand that what they're getting is the chance to talk to a lawyer, and then at the end of it, you won't be their lawyer. I always start out, nearly every client contact that I have, I just say, hey, I'm Shayla, I'm a lawyer. Some things we can help with and some things we can't. So we'll just talk about what's going on, and then we'll figure out if there's anything that we can do to help you. Just to sort of set it up as maybe we can help and maybe we can't. Because the reality is maybe we can help and maybe we can't. And setting that out early also helps to build trust with the person who's coming in, and it helps to build that rapport, so that they know that when they're coming in, there isn't an expectation that you're going to save them. There isn't an expectation that you're going to fix everything. There's an expectation that, again, maybe you can help and maybe you can't. The most important question you can ask in doing this work is, how are you hoping we could help you? Right? What do you want out of this? that helps to get a sense of where you're going in terms of your legal advocacy. And it also helps to get a sense of whether or not the person is coming in with a realistic or reasonable expectation about what you can do in the clinic, right? Somebody comes in and they want to file a $25 million federal lawsuit against the LAPD. That's a good thing to know at the beginning, because that definitely falls into the category of something we can't help with. Right? We will not be filing a $25 million lawsuit against the LAPD at the LA Can Clinic, right? But if somebody comes in and they say, I want to keep my housing, right? Then you have a sense that, like, at the end of it, what they're looking for is they're housed and they want to figure out how they can stay housed. And that helps to shape your interaction with them. Also, it is no different than any other kind of lawyering, because I'm fairly certain when you all work with clients, you also are trying to figure out what your clients want you to do, right, at the end of it, and it's exactly like that. Obviously, you help to identify other information and evidence necessary to provide legal services, right? It's a lot of the interactions that you have with folks are, it's that factual development, right? What is going on, and what are the facts that you need to be able to provide them advice. And then you provide legal services, whether that's counsel and advice, it's pro per assistance, it's referrals. And again, most of the time we don't retain people for longer term representation. That's just not the type of clinic that it is. Again, if we do, we're usually going to do it the next day through LAFLA. So a little bit about the clinic itself. So like I said, the clinic is to provide legal assistance, counsel and advice, pro per assistance. The other thing about the legal clinic itself is that people come in, they talk to us about their problems. That doesn't just sit there, right? It gets filtered through our understanding of what is going on in the Skid Row community, what is going on for folks who are homeless, what is going on for folks who are housed, who are living in all of the area buildings. Very frequently, the larger impact litigation that LAFLA takes, the larger affirmative litigation that we take related to buildings, has come through the LA Can Skid Row Clinic. So one of the first lawsuits that I filed when I was at LAFLA was against the Downtown Business Improvement District in the city of LA for seizing and destroying homeless people's property. That lawsuit came up because people were coming into the clinic and they were telling us that the red shirts, right, the business improvement folks, were coming in and taking their property and throwing it away. And people kept hearing that. And out of that developed a pretty significant federal civil rights lawsuit. That is one of those circumstances that we did, in fact, file a federal civil rights lawsuit. We didn't do it that day, right? But we heard people coming in. Other attorneys in our office filed a lawsuit against the Madison Hotel, which was a single residency occupancy hotel where people were coming in with significant issues related to management. And we heard it time and time again. And out of that came a significant lawsuit. So the clinic helps to develop patterns of what's going on. It's the on-the-ground way for people to be able to explain what's happening. And it's also a way that we work with LA Can, right? It's really important for them to be able to provide services to folks in the community, right? It's a way to partner up and make sure that the space that they have in Skid Row is being used for folks to provide resources. The clinic is staffed by LA Can staff and volunteers. So first and foremost, the first line of defense in terms of like doing intakes is LA Can staff and volunteers. It's staffed by LAFLA staff. So I'm one of the supervising attorneys. We have another supervising attorney, and then we have other housing and communities staff it as well. So we are always there to answer questions. We are always there to fumble through and figure out what the unlawful detainer answer is. And then it's staffed by pro bono attorneys and law students. Lots and lots of law firms in Los Angeles have made a commitment to the LA Can Clinic over the years. Latham has been a huge supporter of this clinic. Folks have been going to this clinic for a very long time. And it is only through law students and lawyers that we have been able to keep our commitment to the Skid Row community for 14 years to be there every Wednesday night from 6 to 8. That is such a critical component of this clinic. And it is really one of those ways that folks in the LA legal community have really given back is by participating in this clinic. The clinic's every Wednesday from 6 to 8. New volunteers can show up at 5:45. We do a logistics training at 5:45, so we can show you the space. We can show you where all the paperwork is. We can show you where the binders are, where you can get the answers to the questions. We can show you there is a computer on site, so you can Google things. Pretty frequently, our answer to the question of like, how does this work, is you Google it. Intakes run from 5:30 to 6:30. Street parking. In Skid Row, dress as business casual, bring pens and papers and your smartphone and leave other items at home just because you don't want to have to keep track of them. The thing about the legal clinic that I love this about the legal clinic, is that it is as chaotic as you can imagine that it would be for folks who are staffing a legal clinic in Skid Row, for people who have all sorts of legal issues, and it's run by volunteers. But at the same time, at the end of the day, people walk away having gotten legal services that they would have never gotten elsewhere, right? And I am certain about that, right? For all of the chaos that exists, for all of the flexibility that we demand of volunteers and of staff to staff that clinic. When people come to the LA Can Clinic, it is the only way that many of them are going to get legal services, right? Because it has such a low bar to entry, right? Like I said before, it's very difficult to get legal services, right? It is very difficult to, and if you think about what it takes to get legal services in a city like Los Angeles, right? What it takes to get through phone trees, right? It means you have to have a phone, right? It means you have to make an appointment. It means that you have to do that above anything else, right? To get in the doors to get legal services. At LA Can, most of those barriers go away, and so a person can simply walk in. That means from 6 to 8 on Wednesday, we have no idea how many people are going to show up, right? We have no idea what those legal issues are going to be. Sometimes we come in and it's 2 people, and we have 7 attorneys. That is like the best day, right? When it's two clients and 7 volunteers. Sometimes it is finals week. The attorneys had like a massive X party that they didn't anticipate, and it's like me and one other person, and we have 11 people who are coming in, and they all have really meaty housing issues, right? And we're there later. Most of the time it's in the middle, right? Most of the time it actually works out well. We have the right number of volunteers and the right number of clients, and everybody gets to see. All the attorneys get to be matched up with a client, but there aren't too many, and you don't feel the pressure, and it's like calm. But we never know. And the reason why we don't know is because to find out in advance would be to put barriers to getting services, right? You'd have to be pre-screened. You'd have to have a callback number, right? You'd have to be able to present your documents in advance. And that kind of barrier is often the thing for many of the folks who come and get services between seeing a lawyer and not, which is why in 2004, LAFLA started the clinic the way that we did, and have been staffing it this way ever since. For me, like I said, I am a type A personality. When I am litigating, I want everything perfect, right? I want to be able to control my day. I want to know what my deadlines are. I want my calendar to work absolutely perfectly. And that is how I run my cases when I'm a litigator. When I walk into LA Can, I have to put all of that aside, right? I have to know to be flexible. I have to know that maybe the clinic will be overstaffed, right? It may be that no one will come in to get services. But I also know that when we do it that way, we are giving legal services to a group of folks who would otherwise not have any access. And it is a challenging clinic. It's also rewarding in a way that I don't experience in other parts of my day, because it's a way to bring this really tangible thing I have, right? Like the technical skills of a lawyer. This legal degree, this like bar license, it's a very tangible way to bring those skills to a group of folks who would not otherwise be able to access lawyers. So all of that to say, these are the clinic logistics, but the big one is to be flexible and to know that the logistics are set up the way that they are for very, very important reasons. And I think for folks who have staffed the clinic over time, it becomes it becomes a thing you want to do, right? The chaos of, you sort of embrace it as like, okay, this is a cool thing to do with my license that I wouldn't do otherwise. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody else who's been want to have any thoughts about that? Awesome. I will tell every single person that staffed the clinic that you said that, and they will totally appreciate that, because I will tell you that they have been in that situation being like, I have no idea what the answer is. If we don't know, you just Google it. So how does the clinic work itself, besides this massive chaos that I have described to you? That person comes in, they do a legal intake. LA CAN helps with the legal intake. It helps folks identify the problem, the goal that they have from seeking legal services, and the facts. I will tell you that intakes do not often give the most clear recitation of what the person's legal issue is, because it's non-lawyers talking to non-lawyers about what their legal issue is, right? So what we'll often hear is that it's a landlord-tenant dispute, but it's actually a federal subsidized housing issue, and it has to do with overpayment related to SSI. I mean, something that I would never describe as a landlord-tenant issue, but that's how it made sense to the person. So we'll at least have some sense of what the problem is, the goals, and the facts, but that's where you all come in, right? So what you do is you sit down and you talk to them. That's why I asked that super open-ended question. Some things we can help with, some things we can't. Why are you here? Like, what is the reason that brought you here today? And for some folks, it might take a while to get there. Sometimes people get there very, very quickly. Part of your job, and I'm certain you all have done this in your day jobs, right, is help to focus people onto the facts that you need as lawyers to be able to get the answers. And that's what you're doing here. And then out of that, we figure out what we can do to help. Right? We figure out how we can give referrals, how we can give advice, if there's any pro assistance we can do. And then you come talk to the staff attorneys. Right? We are there to review what you're going to suggest. We're there to issue spot. My joking aside, the attorneys do know a lot about the things that we work on, if for no other reason, because we've all been staffing the clinic for years. And then you get LAFLA approval, and then you send them on your way, and that is your commitment, right? But at the end of the day, that person got legal services that they would not have gotten elsewhere. One thing about this clinic is that oftentimes people who know about the clinic will come back for a variety of issues multiple times. That is okay, right? Because and we will often know that as the supervising attorneys, right? We have access to our database. We have the ability to be able to say whether a person has come back. Sometimes, providing advice and counsel to someone is not a perfect solution, right? And so sometimes they will have more questions. Sometimes they will have come in without any paperwork. And so the advice you can give them is pretty limited, but then they'll come back with paperwork. Obviously, as you said, there are staff attorneys there who will help you all along the way, and you will check in with them the whole time. We have closing letters for clients. It's a great way to give counsel and advice. We have all of the documents that are there, and the first time that you're there, we'll go over them. Because what we found is we could go over them with you today, but if you don't come to the clinic for 3 weeks or 2 months or a year, you will not remember what intake paperwork looks like. So that's why we have that 545 training, and also why we are there the whole time to answer your questions. This is the most important thing, is that when you come in and you are there to give counsel and advice, that you check with the staff before you give that advice, because we may know of something to ask that you may not have thought about, because this is our day job. So just a couple of tips about this clinic, any clinic doing legal services. I harped on the be flexible. It is the single most important part of staffing a clinic like the LA Can Clinic. It's the single most important thing, I think, about staffing any legal services clinic, right, is that you be flexible around what it takes to provide the legal services. Sometimes people come in and there's one person, there's one client, sometimes there's 12. We have no way to know, but again, that is the benefit of this clinic. The second thing is that you meet clients where they are. So clients come in sometimes with legal questions that we can easily identify as legal questions. Sometimes people are coming in because they have a problem, they have nowhere to go, and we understand what a legal problem is because that we are steeped in the law, and that is how we spend our days. We know what's a legal question and what's not. But sometimes the concept of a lawyer is confusing. I mean, I'm sure we all have family members who are like, I have no idea what you do as a lawyer, right? And if you don't sue people, then people really don't know what you do, right? And that's oftentimes what this is people will come in and they think maybe it's a legal issue, and sometimes it's not. Clients also may have unrealistic expectations about what we can do in this clinic, about what the law allows. I think there are significant limitations about what the law provides. Oftentimes, I think we become attuned to the limitations of the law, right? We understand standing. We understand statute of limitations. We understand all the things that work to keep people out of the courts, to keep people from defending things. Those are hard lessons for people to learn, and sometimes people don't know them when they walk in the door. So just being attuned to that and knowing where you are coming from and where they are coming from is really helpful. The other thing is that we have to accept the limitations of the clinic. For all of its chaos and all of the tremendous value that I think this clinic provides, and I think folks who have volunteered would echo that, and I think folks who have gotten services would echo that as well. It is a limited clinic, right? So people sometimes they come in with significant legal issues, and there is no way for us to provide them the services that they need at the clinic. And there is no one in the city of Los Angeles who will be able to provide them the legal services that they would need to fully obtain justice or fully obtain the remedies that they need. There is one legal services attorney for every 10,000 low-income people in the city of Los Angeles, right? So there are holes in the provision of legal services for low-income folks. If you can't pay for a lawyer, there is simply not a legal services resource out there for folks. We are fairly good, I think, at the clinic of knowing where those holes are and being very realistic about what those limitations are. So part of the advice and counsel is because we know that there will never be a legal services attorney who can provide them those services. And then also just accepting the limitations of the legal system. The hardest thing, I think, for me to adjust to, and I think for most people to adjust to in this clinic, is being able to say, it sucks. Like, it's true. It sucks. And there's nothing that I could do about it. There's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing that the best lawyer in the world can do about it, right? That is the limitation of the legal system, of legal services, of justice in America, right? But part of the value that we have is being able to be honest with someone as a lawyer who knows these things about those limitations, right? It does no one any good if we pretend that a system is more just than it is. that there are more resources than there are, because it just sends people on that constant hunt for more when they're not going to be able to find it. So sometimes when people walk in the door, the best service we can provide is just being honest that there are no other services, so that they can do something different, right? And that's a really important thing that we provide. And that is enough, right? And that is a great thing about this clinic, right? Is that every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. in Skid Row, people who are homeless, who are housed in very precarious situations, right, can walk in and talk to a lawyer. There are very few community spaces in Los Angeles, in this country, right, where you can do that, where you can walk in and you would talk to a lawyer. I will tell you, you all know this better than I do, there are very few spaces where you can walk in and you can talk to a lawyer from Latham and Watkins, right? Like, that is not a thing that happens. But it happens at the LA Can Clinic, and it happens every Wednesday night from 6 to 8 p.m. It is part of LAFLA's commitment, right, to ensuring access to justice. Right? It is part of the legal community in LA's commitment to ensuring that if you are homeless and you are on the streets in Skid Row, you can still talk to a lawyer. It is a huge thing. I'm very excited that you all came in to go through this training today, that you are hopefully encouraged to come to the clinic at least once, if not as often as Ashley does and other folks. But I'm happy to answer questions here. I'm happy to answer questions, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. On Wednesday nights. But thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions I can answer now? It is. Yep. But it is a great thing. We used to do it differently, but now we've made it so that you can sign up. The one thing we would say is, if you sign up, it's very helpful if you show up. Yes, it is in the world. But it is the type of thing where you can sign up last minute or the day or the week before. Other questions? Well, this is my contact information. There's Fong Wong is our pro bono director. That is her email address. You should feel free to email either of us with questions. And hopefully we will see you at the LA Can Clinic.